Hello everyone. So just a quick intro about me. Myself, Shalini Mittal, and I have almost 7 years of experience into IT training and development. My expertise is Java, and from past 3 years I've been into web UI. I develop websites and provide trainings on the same HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap, Angular 2, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's get started. I guess you all are aware of the Acadgild technology started by Vinod Dham, and the various courses available at Acadgild apart from the courses that you have registered. We are going to the whole session, basically the whole Angular 2, the advanced fundamentals is based on Angular 2 and the progressive web applications. So today it will be mostly theory. For the startup, like there are many things that needs to be installed, and once you install it on your machines, you are then good to go for creating Angular 2 applications. So I would suggest that if you guys have the laptops, I'll guide you through the installation process and do it while in this session. Do it once just for the basics. Once you are good to go with it, and then for the next sessions, I won't be asking you for all the installations or doing tactically with me. Okay, so today's session will be more theory based. Today what we will be going through is evolution of the web, introduction to the front end frameworks, a single page application, what is it and how it works, traditional websites, the misconceptions about SPA, what is new in SPA, the benefits of the same, history of Angular, and if you all are not aware, till past 2 years there was Angular JS. It was called as Angular JS, or you can say Angular 1.x. And Angular 2 is in market since past 2 years, wherein from past 1 year it has taken up the market and Angular 1 is being deprecated. Again, it has its own issues, it has its own problems, and Angular 2 has come up with more features and more stability as compared to Angular 1.x. We'll look into what are transpilers, the technology supporting NG2. Now, NG2 means new Angular. So N is for new and G is for Angular and 2 is for the version. We'll go through the environment setup and the hello world example using NG2. Later on, 1993 is when the HTML came into picture. It had support for the images, that is GIF, the minimal of JavaScript and the HTML scripts. It supported Flash, and only we had CGI scripts for backend. So we had CGI. So basically, we all know, are aware of the client server architecture. So client side, we have the presentation layer, which is created by using HTML and CSS, and we have client side scripting called as JavaScript, which provides us with major of the interactions that needs to be done at the client side. And then at the server side, we have the database, from wherein we need someone to communicate with database, retrieve the data, process the data, and then send that data as a response back over the HTTP protocol to the client side to be able to display on the web page. So 90s used those gateway interfaces. Nowadays no uses. It's again a server-side scripting language, the way we have JavaScript as a client-side scripting language. So CGI has its own issues for using scripting languages, no multi-threading support, no session management, all this stuff. So then many of the platforms came into picture and we had server-side scripting. Then 95, 2000 was the era wherein the CSS evolved, wherein you can style all these elements, and at the same time JavaScript also was evolving. So it was again bringing up more new features into JavaScript. So basically it makes developers work a lot easier, I guess, right? I have just worked on WordPress a bit. I haven't worked on other CMS systems. Yes, that's what I know, that it basically helps you to create websites. Like if it takes a week's time with WordPress, you can develop in 2 days the same website. And mostly WordPress, Drupal, they are used for blogging websites and all those stuff. So yes, content management systems also came into picture. Then we have Yeah, SharePoint also I haven't worked, but I've heard a lot about SharePoint, and it's too much in the market. It's in demand. Then we saw about the rich internet applications, CSS3 animations, Ajax, responsive design, mobile web. So basically, you have an HTML page, and from there, suppose I have a button wherein I click and I want to get some data. So suppose I'm onto Amazon or these websites, shopping websites, and I'm searching for a particular category of product. And I click on a product name and I want to fetch the data. So usually all the websites you will have, they will have a common structure, that is, they're going to have a header, they're going to have a footer, they're going to have all these stuff, right? So prior to Ajax was introduced, if you want to know, here also you can see, right, whenever I want to click on something, the whole page doesn't get to refreshed. Okay, Gmail uses, Gmail, Facebook, they uses lots of Ajax behind the scenes for fetching the data from the server and displaying the data without refreshing the whole page. That's the whole concept behind it. So asynchronously means it is running in the background, right? So that's where Ajax came into picture, which helps me to create more responsive applications. It doesn't let my user wait for the whole page to refresh and reload. Instead, my user can still surf or browse on my web and still waiting for the data to be fetched from the server. So Ajax was used a lot. It is still used. So even if you today create Spy using Angular 2 in the background, it is still based on the Ajax. You work on any frameworks, all frameworks, they have the base as JavaScript, because browsers understand only JavaScript. So those who have attended the front-end fundamental batch, we have learned about Bootstrap, we have seen the jQuery. We understand that even if we use jQuery or Bootstrap, underlying Bootstrap uses the normal CSS syntax. And again, jQuery is again built on the JavaScript framework, a JavaScript library. So you have AngularJS, you have Knockout.js, you have Node.js, you have all these JavaScript libraries or frameworks available. They all are built on the top of the JavaScript. Then nowadays there is lots of demand of single page applications, which is again based on the MVC frameworks. So what's MVC? Model View Controller, right? So what model represents? Exactly, Aarti. Okay, wow. Yeah, so model represents data. So from where the data comes into picture. Yeah, so it can be from the server, it can be through web services call or whatever it is. So the model represents data. View.
HTML.
Exactly, right? The UI that you see, that's the view. And the controller, what's the role of controller? Yeah, so basically it has the business logic, it handles the request, it controls the data. It basically is responsible for redirecting or routing from one page to another and all those stuff, right? So that is what is the MVC framework, that is the model view controller, and it is one of the design patterns available. So there are basically around 30-35 design patterns, and we have at every layer, so front-end layer, the back-end layer, the middle layer, the enterprise layer, the database layer, they all have the design patterns available. MVC comes onto the web tier layer, wherein the view is represented using the HTML, controller, the business logic, and the model coming in from the database or the servers, right? So we have lots of front-end frameworks available. So can someone tell me what do you mean by framework? Why frameworks? So frameworks, initial learning curve might take some time to understand the flow, but once you get the flow, it's very easy to develop applications using frameworks. So we have frameworks at every stage of the programming tiers. Same way we have frameworks at the front end side. The objectives for the framework, they provide with modularity. They have some built-in features. So basically it's said that frameworks helps to reduce the writing of the vanilla code. So for example, you know that when you click on a button, something should happen. You have a structure generated for that. You just have to do it once and then you can just modify on the go as and when needed. It also helps you in decoupling, and it also helps you in modifying the code later on. You have common libraries which you can use. Faster development, debugging becomes easier. You can collaborate your code. So multiple teams can work on the different aspects of a particular project, and later on collaboration becomes easier. Shorter learning curve. Basically, I will not exactly agree with this particular point about learning curve, but yeah, developing curve for developers after learning how the framework works becomes very easy. And front-end frameworks, because they are responsible for having single-page applications. So yes, they support all the concerns for SPAs. So few of the list of the front-end frameworks, Backbone, as Angular only for SPA. Himchal, what do you understand by SPA? Not the body spa, massage spa, the spa over here, single page application. What do you understand by that? Fine, the full form is single page app exactly. But what do you mean by that? What do you understand by SPA? What is SPA according to you? Is it a language? Is it a software? What is it? So that is, yeah, it's an architecture. That's what I was looking for. It's a concept. It's an architecture, right? So Angular 2 is based on the architecture SPA. That's the only thing. Is Angular only for SPA? It doesn't make sense. So SPA is a concept, it's an architecture, and because Angular 2, Backbone, all these frameworks, they follow on that concept. So for example, when I say object-oriented programming, if you guys are aware of that, it's a concept. Any language that is going to provide the features of OOPS, I categorize those languages under object-oriented programming. We have SOA, service-oriented architecture. Any particular implementation following this SOA architecture, they come under the category of SOA. So see, when I say single-page application, it doesn't mean that you are going to have only one HTML page. Okay? So any application or any project or any website may be having n number of HTML pages. It all depends on the way it's being delivered at the front end, the way the pages are being refreshed and reload. Now, many a times you might want to redirect a particular website on a new window. So at that time, you will have to reload the whole page. So single page application doesn't mean you will have only one HTML file. No. You're going to still have multiple HTML files because you cannot fill in everything in one HTML. It's going to get complicated. Then you will not have modularity. So for example, if you just consider the Gmail page or the Facebook, all these websites, they already have the concept of single page application. So all the websites, they have this navigation bar from wherein you can navigate. They will always have these left side where you will have the sidebars. You will have the main page. So when I click on any particular, so it just refreshes this particular part. And see, rest all remains the same, right? But many a times it may happen. So when I go over here, and if I want to open something from here, so in this scenario, it opens a new window. It loads a new fresh HTML page. So when I click on Drive, it opens a fresh HTML page. Now this is something different. So that doesn't mean single page application will have only one HTML5 and dumped everything into one. Angular, if you will ask me, yes, it is the best to use for enterprise applications or ERP applications. But for small scale applications, Angular 2, it doesn't make sense. Okay, because if you have a simple, suppose static website wherein not too much of interactions from the user, in that case, using Angular 2, it will not make any sense for you to do it. Again, because the learning curve will be there. At the same time, you will have to download many libraries and the size increases. So depends on the requirement, and then only you decide to go for Angular 2 or not. So again, single page applications that load a single HTML page and dynamically update that page as the user interacts with the app. So we'll see when we go about the coding, right? So it says it loads a single HTML page. At the same time, there will be references to multiple HTML pages. So all the pages are downloaded in the start only. So maybe at initial level, now with Angular 2, the speed and performances have increased. So the loading time the loading of the page is doesn't take much time. So whatever is needed or whatever might be needed are there on the client machines. So then the round trips to the server, fetching in every time for all the requests needed by the client, it saves on all those trips, and it helps you to make responsive website. That's what single page application basically helps you when creating. So your page makes more responsive. Your page basically helps you to fetch the response and display it in much quicker time. Now, single page application, the flow basically is the client provides an initial request to the server. Server looks up for the resource, and the response is sent back in the form of HTML on the client's browser. And then for the multiple requests later on, the AJAX calls happen and the JSON data is sent back to the client. So everyone aware of JSON? So then you make AJAX calls, that is asynchronously the calls goes to the server. It fetches for the request whatever was there, and the response is sent back in the form of JSON. Then again on the client side, you need to parse this JSON file and then present it on the HTML page. So here wherein the model comes into picture, so JSON data that being fetched from the server is stored in a model on the client side, and it is presented on a view, that is the browser, using HTML, and controllers are responsible for controlling or communicating or interacting between the model and the views. So if in a model you have employee data and you want to display on the view, you tell the controller which data you want to display where, and it takes care of binding your data with the view. Prior to AJAX, when you make a request to server, your page would be refreshed totally, and then the client or the user will be just watching the blank screen. Nowadays, your page becomes responsive. So I go to Amazon, I click on a product, I fire the query, it fetches the data. By that time, I can even go on and explore some other stuff. So many times, like when I work on them, I say right click, open new tab. So it opens on the new tab by the time it is fetching the data. Prior to that, my HTML page used to get stuck while fetching the request from the server. Okay, so that is what is basically a AJAX call. So it helps you to do server-side processing in the background, and the server sends a response back in the form of JSON. Now JSON is the most preferred format nowadays for to be able to send data from the client to the server or server to the client. Prior to SPA, as we have already discussed so much about it, client sends a request, HTML comes in, client again sends a request, and again HTML is coming into, and the whole page gets reloaded. Okay, so these were all the problems with the traditional approach, wherein then the SPA or the AJAX comes into picture. I guess I'll give you a minute to read on this instead of me just reading it. Just take some time out and just in a minute read it. So actually we have discussed all these things wherein we have a common page, one HTML page, and multiple views are rendered on the same HTML page. Okay. So SPA helps you in creating responsive device, loads single page application. It is more interactive, better user experience. We use AJAX and HTML5 for to create web apps without reloads, capability to perform DOM manipulations. Just give some time. When we go more into Angular 2, you will see the power of Angular 2, and your page becomes so nice and so responsive. You make changes at one place and you want to have the effect at n number of places. It's just few lines of code and you just get it. And it's very fast. Like you get the response in like fraction of seconds, and it's like wow. So that's what it does. It was also able to store navigation history. So I'm going from one page to another, and when I click on back, I need to be able to store the history. If you want to store that, yes, you can store the history of the views as well. You can perform DOM manipulations. So DOM is document object model, and when you are manipulating the documents object, so you have all the HTML elements and all those stuff. So if you want to dynamically manipulate them, you want to make some changes, maybe have some effects, animations, or you want to hide or show some of the data, you want to generate some data dynamically. All those stuff can be done using the DOMs. So Again, it has its own APIs or libraries for do that. So maybe you can say document. So we have seen in the previous batch who were there with me, document.get element by ID. And I'd shown you one glimpse of the same. So you can get the elements reference by the ID, and then you can manipulate the content of the element. You can change the style of the element. You can generate elements dynamically as well. Okay. So all those things you can do it. Navigation history, then it also provides with routing for views and nested views. Routing, we will go into depth when we have a session on routing, exactly what it means. JAX, you will have templates for views to be displayed. It helps you in data binding, and you can organize code into specific modules, and you don't have to refresh the page every time. For those who are not much aware of DOM manipulations, just type in DOM manipulations on Google and just read about it. It's pretty easy, not at all tough. And if you know JavaScript, you will be able to understand. Basically, template helps you to generate views. That's how they are linked. So you create templates, or you can say you create a structure that's called as a template for displaying the views on the document or the browser. So that's how the templating and the views are linked. So again, the same benefits. I'm not going to go over it again. We've already completed all these things. So one of the most important benefit of using single page applications is it reduces bandwidth usage going in or making the server calls to and fro. So that's where it helps you. And it also uses caching and local storage. So I guess you remembered HTML5 local storage. So when you use SPA, it helps you to cache all the resources that you might be using into your application, reducing the server loading time, unless and until you are actually fetching data from the server and then displaying it. So it may happen that I'm just viewing the content that's already available on my page. So in that case, I don't have to make server calls. Only I want to make server calls when I want to display some dynamic content or fetching data from database and getting displayed it on my web page. Again, it's based on JavaScript library, CSS3. Yes, performance matters, and the most important concept of SPA is that front end and back end, they both are decoupled. So just a small history about AngularJS. It was created by two developers, Misco Hevery and Adam Abrams. It's maintained by Misco and Brad Green, and being used internally in Google. It was intended to be a MVC or MVVM framework. So it's again model view controller or model view model. So basically, MVC, MVVM or MVW. So there's also a term MVW. So nowadays they say you want to call a controller, you want to call a component, you want to call whatever you want to call. So basically model will always represent data. View will always be, always the purpose of view will be to showcase the presentations, that is the UI stuff. And then you can call it as controller, Angular to call them as components. So there are various terminologies available. That's the reason it's also said MVW. So model, view, whatever. Again, since HTML is declarative programming, AngularJS also was based on declarative programming, and it has directive. Don't worry if anyone is not aware of AngularJS or Angular 1. Angular 1, Angular 2, both are two totally different frameworks, and there is no similarities in both of them. So we will be doing Angular 2, so no worries or no need to know anything about AngularJS if you don't know still. They were being used by large organizations, and it was widely spread. It had few drawbacks. Yeah, they also call that as MVVM, that is model view model. So basically it's two-way binding, because AngularJS provides a two-way binding. So model is binded with view and view with the model. So that's the reason they also called it as MVVM. It does has controller, not only one controller. it has many controllers. It does, but the main purpose is of two-way binding in AngularJS. So alternatively, it was also called as MVVM. Yes, it had some issues. It had some life cycle properties available. The way you can bind data, there were only 2,000 bindings. There was no feature of loading the modules, no inheritance support. We cannot modify the DOM directly, and there were a few issues with AngularJS. So I guess I will not go into many of the things in details, because those who don't know AngularJS, they won't even understand what services, what controllers, what modules, what JQLite, or what is $scope or what is $root scope. So just it's FYI. So there were issues with all these components available in Angular 1. And now in Angular 2, there is a different way of designing your applications, the front-end web applications. So again, we have ECMA scripting. So ES5, ES6, ES7, so on and so forth. And then now we have TypeScript. So we will be going into ES6. We will have 2 sessions on the same. So when you learn ES6, you will understand few of the drawbacks with the same. Then you'll be able to actually understand why TypeScript came into picture and what are the advantages of it. Now, Angular 2, it's a totally different architecture as opposed to AngularJS or Angular 1. Angular 2 supports ES6, that is ECMAScript 6, along with a language called as TypeScript. So Angular 2 uses TypeScript or ES6, which is internally converted to no. ES5 is supported by all the browsers, but not ES6. Okay, and TypeScript is a language used and popularly used with Angular 2, wherein the TypeScript needs to be converted to JavaScript because browsers understand only JS files. The way, if you guys remembered, SAS, SASS, for creating your CSS files. So when we use SAS processors, we were able to generate a modular CSS file. So SAS compilers, they were able to compile the SCSS files into the CSS files. Same way, here we have something called as, okay, that's coming in later, transpilers. So basically transpilers, they do what? They compile the TypeScripts to the JavaScript files because browser understands only JavaScript. Okay. The way Bootstrap focuses on creating mobile, AngularJS and Angular 1 are same. Angular 2 is totally different. So that's the now. Can someone tell me why Angular 2 and not AngularJS 2? Yeah, AngularJS uses JavaScript, and because Angular 2 does not use JavaScript, they have come up with a different term called as Angular 2 and not AngularJS, because it's not based on JavaScript, it's based on different language called as TypeScript. Yes, it's not a continuation of Angular. Perfect. Again, it's more focus is on mobile first. So you create applications for mobile, keeping in mind for the mobiles, and then it becomes easier for creating applications for the desktop or the laptop browsers. It has something called as dependency injection. Many new directives and components are added. So what are directives? What are components? Hold on to it. We will be going into depth later on. Now, anyone aware of dependency injection? Dependency injection is, so basically they say that if your application is dependent on any particular object, do not try to create them. Just ask for it from the framework, and it will inject into your applications as and when required. That is what is dependency injection. Angular 2 is based on this concept as well. That is called as dependency injection. See, if you know AngularJS, for now I would suggest that you forget that you know AngularJS, because there are lots and lots of changes between AngularJS and Angular 2. AngularJS, you just created normal .js files, included the AngularJS library, and you were good to go creating the controllers, the components, using the $scope and all those properties available and everything, right? But with Angular 2, it is totally different There are many changes. Like, yes, you do have services, you do have kind of controllers. Of course, you will need to display views. Again, there will be two-way binding the way AngularJS had. So here also you will have two-way binding, separation of concerns, dependency injections, declarative approach. So there are many things in these terms that are common. But when you talk about programming stuff, if you have worked on AngularJS, I guess you will see a wide difference in the way Angular 2 is structured and in the way the Angular 1 was structured. Okay, so concept-wise, yes, because they both are meant for responsive applications and all those stuff. So that again remains the same. So again, you will have services over here the way you had services in AngularJS, wherein you put all the common logic inside services. You had the controllers for providing the binding between data and the views and all those stuff. So that conceptually everything is there. But creation of everything is totally different. Syntax is totally different. The language only it uses its TypeScript, which is totally different. Okay. For those who don't know about dependency injection, the way I usually explain is, supposedly, okay, so I would want some responses from you. Suppose that we plan to go for a trekking. So what all things do you carry when you go for trekking? So you are a trekker and you have some organization through which they do all this setup for you. They tell you where to reach and everything is maintained and managed by them. So what all things you as a trekker needs to carry? So basically you would have a small backpack wherein you will have the basic necessities like maybe you won't carry the whole lunch. You would carry the snack items. You would carry water bottle. Rope again, if you're going through some organization, they would be responsible for arranging the ropes for you. Yes, you might carry a light. Tent, again, it depends. So they will be responsible. So basically, whenever you go for any trekking or any kind of these activities, you just try to be as light as possible, okay? Because you are doing trekking, so if you have lots of items inside your backpack, it would be tough for you to cover that trekking range. Whenever you're going for trekking, at every few distances, you will have food stalls, you will have water stalls, you will have juice stalls, you will be having all those stuff. And whenever you feel thirsty, whenever you feel hungry, whenever you want to rest, you can take rest and have something in between, right? So usually when you go for trekking, you tend to keep yourself as light as possible. And whenever you need anything, it is injected to you by that organization on the way as and when you need. So that is what is dependency injection. So again in Angular, if you are working with some services or working with some components, working with some objects, and you need them, they will be injected within your applications as and when needed. That is what is dependency injection. This is just in the layman terms. Programmatically, when we will go into the Angular 2 syntax, it will make more sense to you when I say that this component is injected. So what happens is when you go for trekking, that organization is responsible for handling everything for you. So you don't have to take care of creating and managing and maintaining everything. That's what the dependency injection in programming world means. So you want any object, it gets injected, how the object is created, how it is injected, when its life cycle will be over, when will it be garbage collected, all those things are taken care by the framework or the container itself. So you don't have to worry about all this stuff. So you are free from just using it and just releasing it. Rest everything is managed by the container. That's what is dependency injection. So basically this is all about Angular 2. It has types, it supports ES6, ES5, change detection, testing, material designing, server-side Angular, routing, services, directives, React.js, dependency injection, and promises. It's just an overview today. So I won't be explaining you each and everything, but as we go on in the sessions, all the topics will be covered. Now, these are the terminologies used in Angular 2. So everything, because Angular 2 is supposed to be pure object-oriented. Anyone who is not aware of OOPS concepts or object-oriented programming, constructors, properties, classes. See, I won't be able, for those who don't know about the OOPS concept, it won't be possible for me to go into depth. But as in when we are using whatever concepts we are using, why they are used and what they do, I will be explaining all those stuff. Okay? And the testing framework that we will be covering is Jasmine. So like you have JUnit, NUnit, same way you have Jasmine for testing the web-based applications. Okay, so it's one of the testing frameworks available. So again, in Angular 2, the terminology that's used is we have components. Again, everything is a class, as you can see. Service is a class, component is a class, and then we have Angular modules available. Within the components, we will be declaring some directives to be used. That's a type of controller. And we also define the scope of all the properties that we use in our applications, right? So whatever concept is behind package or namespace is the same concept behind the Angular modules over here. So modules, they help you to organize and categorize all the components that you are using in your applications. Okay, so this is about the overview of Angular 2, what all terminologies are used, what is each and everything. Transpilers, they are used to convert source code from one programming language to another. So we have transpilers in Angular 2 who converts the TypeScript or the ES6 into the corresponding JavaScript code. And again, the TypeScript is being developed by Microsoft and AngularJS was developed by Google. So now they both are working together so that they come up with a more stable and the TypeScript to be a standard for Angular 2 applications. So then, okay, anyone knows NPM? Yes, it's a dependency manager. So which kind of dependencies? That's a node package manager, right? So basically it manages all the JavaScript libraries that you might be using in your applications. Then we have ECMAScript 6, TypeScript, Dart, Jasmine, the testing tools, and the NPM. Node package manager, because while you're creating applications for Angular 2, it is dependent on many of the libraries like Bootstrap, jQuery, System.js, Node.js, React.js, to name a few. So instead of you doing everything manually, so we have Node Package Manager, wherein you have at least 18,000 JavaScript libraries available, and you just download it from it. So it's a repository. So basically NPM is nothing but a repository for all the JavaScript libraries that's available. Okay. So, and yes, AngularJS heavily relies on the NPM. That is the Node Package Manager, for it to be able to manage all the packages or JavaScript libraries used for an Angular 2 application. So again, React.js has some features which are, it provides more rich features than jQuery. So I can use jQuery, but few of the features, it has some advanced features above jQuery. So when we go into the applications, we'll look into what React.js actually provides to me. Okay. Now, for all those who are on their laptops, please go online. Yeah, just go to npmjs.com. Okay, scroll down and you'll see get started with npm. Depending on which operating systems you have, 32-bit, 62-bit, please download the file. Okay, you scroll down. And you go to get started with NPM. Okay. We will be seeing about how to download dependencies using package.json file, what is it, or using the npm install commands. Everything we will be seeing it. Okay. Now, we need editor. So we can use Notepad++, we can use Sublime Text, we can use Visual Code, we can use Atom, we can use WebStorm, and so on and so forth. but the editor that I use is VS Code. So please go online and type code.visualstudio.com and download the VS Code. So it's a Visual Studio Code. It's like it has a different environment for your Angular 2 applications. So and then just download for maybe Windows, Mac, or whatever it is. Okay, download and install. Okay, then go on to your folder and create a workspace. Okay, so suppose I say yes. You can do on the desktop as well. Okay. Once you do this, open the command from this path. Or else go to the command prompt and provide the path over there. And on this workspace, type the command, be careful, npm init -- yes. So under your workspace, you should get a file called as package.json. This particular command helps to create a package.json under your workspace. Then this file is responsible for managing all the dependencies used in your application. Then for all the dependencies that you need, you say npm install. Now, if I have a dependency on jQuery and wherein Angular 2 heavily depends on the same, I'll say npm install jQuery. Okay. If I do this, it creates a node modules folder, but if you open the package.json file, okay, you will see it doesn't have entry for the jQuery dependency. Then I fire the command npm install jQuery --save. So I did it on purpose by not saying --save, but ideally when you install any dependency, you say --save as well. See? So this way you can go on and fire the install commands for installing maybe say jQuery, maybe say Bootstrap, maybe say Angular 2, maybe say React.js, System.js, whatever you are using, you can use the npm command and you can start installing all the libraries. Now the issue with this is because Angular 2 heavily depends on many libraries. Installing this way one by one, and if you miss any library, your Angular 2 will not work the way it's expected to work. That is why suggested is what I'll do over here is now I'll say I'm going to fire the command npm install. Okay. I'm on the same workspace, so choice is yours wherever you want to go. npm install -g @angular CLI. CLI is for command line interface for Angular. So it takes some time. Just fire this command and then you can go to angular.io. By the time it downloads for you, angular.io docs. So here you will see something called as quick start seed. So you will see with Angular CLI the way we are doing it. So it is very tough for Angular 2 if you do it manually, because it has dependencies on many libraries. I know there will be all these questions raising as to why all these libraries and what's the purpose. You will see everything details later on. Today, if I even tell you everything, you won't be able to correlate it. So just for now, I'm just trying to show you a simple example of Angular 2 running on VS Code, starting the server and seeing it on the browser, how it works. That's it. Everything, each and everything will be linked later on. Okay. So you have this quick start seed, which you can go over there and download it so that it helps you with a quick starter project for Angular 2. Now, once you do this, okay, it's still working. Are you guys with me, everyone? Installing the Angular CLI. Yes, you need TypeScript and everything for Angular 2, but you won't need it right now because we are using the ng command for creating a new project. For those who have done creating the project, they can go to the VS Code file, say open folder, go to that workspace, okay, and select that folder, the whole folder, and just select folder. And here if you open the package.json file, you will see all the dependencies that you might require. See TypeScript, Protractor, Karma, Jasmine, the testing frameworks, Node, the compiler, the CLI for running your applications. All dependencies, they are downloaded for you. The common compiler, core, forms, HTTP, platform browser, router, React.js, zone.js, everything is there. So when you do use the ng command to create a project, you get the basic template, the basic structure, from where then you can just start. Otherwise, you will be doing it manually, downloading all the dependencies by using npm install command. So always suggested instead of doing it manually, do it via the starter projects. So package.json, just to show you that you have all the dependencies installed. So all these that you can see, they are the Angular specific dependencies, and here you have all the libraries. Okay. Now, you have index.html, wherein you have app root loading. Now what you have to do is go under the project, under project workspace, and from there fire the command ngserve. So if you see in package.json file, to start the Angular CLI, you need to type ngserve. So basically ngserve is doing what? It is going to start the server for you. Compile successfully, go to your browser, type localhost :4200 and you should get the output app works. So I did nothing, just created one project, started my server. I went onto the browser, I opened the URL with the port 4200 and you get the output app works. Your first Angular 2 project is up and running. I know you understood nothing because I haven't explained you anything. There is a flow from where it starts and it goes internally and from where you're getting app works. So if you see in the app folder, you have a TS file, that's a TypeScript file, okay? And here you can see app works. This title is what it's getting displayed over there. You can just change it over here and you can say, suppose, welcome to this first demo, and you get this black dot, that means it's not saved. Now see, I just went to app.component.ts file. I made changes in the title. I am saving it and it gets refreshed automatically. I haven't done anything, not even restarted my server. So once the server is up and started and running, you just go on and it gets refreshed automatically. So the development time decreases. So you don't have to worry about, like, as opposed to servlets and JSP, I know, and all those Java developers whom we have, we always have to redeploy the application when we make any changes in business logic. If you make changes in JSP files, they get refreshed. But apart from that, you have to deploy it again, restart the server, and all those stuff. Here, nothing doing, just make changes over here, go there and you can see. Okay, so yes, many things to be explained. Till then, have a nice day and see you all, and do provide your feedbacks. Bye-bye.